Our next speaker will be Sarita Gupta, and next up will be Mr. Stephen Jones. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you to the board. My name is Sarita Gupta, and I'm the Executive Director of Jobs with Justice. Jobs with Justice is a national campaign for workers' rights. We mobilize workers and allies in the faith community and communities across the country on campaigns to win justice in workplaces and in communities where working families live. We work with 47 coalitions in 26 states across the United States. For many years now, we've worked to ensure that workers have a fair chance to vote whether to form a union if they want to. In 2010, Jobs of Justice local affiliates worked on over 137 workplace justice campaigns affecting 197,000 workers. In many of these campaigns, we've witnessed the negative impact of an outdated and broken process that stalls and stymies workers' choices through delays, bureaucracy, and wasteful litigation. I'm offering testimony this morning in favor of the procedural changes to the NLRB representation process. These proposed changes remove some of the unfair obstacles that we've witnessed in union elections. Under the current process, workers encounter delays of months and even years. Some never get to vote at all. During these delays, employers run anti-union campaigns that prevent the workers from having a fair election process. These delays are often unnecessary, over extraneous or secondary issues that shouldn't prevent workers from getting a vote. An extra couple of weeks, or 3 or 4, might not seem like much to a casual observer. But for a worker who is going through the daily captive audience meetings, one-on-ones, and other anti-union tactics, it's really intense and serves to intimidate workers from exercising their right to vote on whether to form a union if they want to. I'd like to just share a few examples. In Missouri, 18 employees at ESI Express Scripts petitioned for an election. In fact, within 1 hour, 80% of authorization cards were signed. As a result of unnecessary delays, the workers were subjected to weekly anti-union luncheons and daily one-on-ones to determine weaknesses in the unit. A number of employees quit because of the intense pressure to vote no daily. This is simply unacceptable. Workers should not experience such fear and intimidation that they choose to leave their jobs versus exercise their right to vote. Excessive delays subject workers to intense anti-union campaigns waged by employers. We see this in all types of workplaces. At MEMC Electronics in St. Peters, Missouri, the production unit filed for an election. During this campaign, the company hired 2 attorneys, took every issue they could think of to a hearing, was found guilty of 17 ULP charges the union filed against the company, and appealed every decision made by Region 14 of the NLRB. After 2 years of stalling tactics, the union won almost every charge filed against the company, as well as all hearings and appeals. But in the end, the union lost the election by a narrow margin, again, due to the delays and the company's tactics. And finally, as a final example, at Sisters of Jesus Crucified in Brockton, which is a nursing home in Massachusetts, the workers filed for an election. It took 70 days for the election to take place. During that time, the company intimidated workers to the point of fear to be seen with fellow union supporters. The last round of intimidation included leaflets that said that workers would be going against the church if they voted. As a result, 80% of workers signed cards, yet only a small percentage actually voted. That is serious intimidation, and no worker should be subjected to that. All of these examples demonstrate that the current system does not ensure that workers have the freedom to exercise their basic right to vote. The proposed rules would provide stability and a level playing field for workers. These are modest changes, but much needed ones. In closing, communities are really suffering right now, as millions of Americans are out of work and struggling to get by. Wall Street reaps record profits while our neighbors are losing their jobs and their homes. Now more than ever, workers need good jobs that can support a family, and we believe that giving workers a chance to vote is essential to bringing stability to communities and to rebuilding our middle class. Any bit of help for workers in this economy is a good thing. A voice on the job is critical to restoring balance in our economy. These proposed rule changes are a step towards helping us to restore this much-needed balance. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much for being here and providing your perspective. Any questions?
Yeah. You've heard the statistic about over 60% win rate for petitions that are filed. What has that been your experience?
Well, again, I think I'll go back to the answer that one of the former testifiers offered, which is I think that's a very small slice of cases to look at. I've actually experienced more of workers file a petition and then the petitions are withdrawn because of the delay tactics and the intimidation and fear that workers are experiencing. When it does finally get to an election process, from my perspective, the work we have to do in the community to engage faith leaders, community leaders, to let workers know that there's support for them in the community, that they have support to exercise their right to vote is critical. We've become a critical part of communities helping to educate workers about their right to vote. So I have mixed experiences with this, but we'll just offer that I think the proposed rule changes are important. They're modest steps. They certainly don't fix the problem overall that we see from our perspective. But I again want to affirm that I think that it's an important step forward.
Do you have a sense of the percentage of petitions that get withdrawn versus those that have gone to election?
I don't have the numbers on off the top of my head. I'm happy to submit them as part of written comments for sure. I mean, from our experience, we do track the campaigns we work on and what we've experienced. I'm happy to enclose that in written comments.
I wanted to ask the question I asked Elizabeth Bunn a little earlier about how you communicate with workers during these campaigns. Is it by visiting their homes or phone or email, or what means do you use?
Well, in our case, we're not a union, right? So for us, the way that we communicate with workers is in their churches or temples or synagogues. Often we have church leaders who will say to us, I have workers who came and said that they're trying to figure out how to form a union in their work site. They need a safe haven, a safe place to really talk to one another and their peers, and they open up their doors to make that possible. Often it's really through meetings, like creating community spaces where people can come and share their perspectives and talk about the issues in their work sites and what they need in order to have a better working conditions and be able to support themselves and their families and really be able to participate in the community in the way that they want to.
Thank you for your comments today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.